Hello, my name is Katie Newman, and I teach 8th grade English here at South County, the Advanced Academics program. A little bit about myself before we get started. I am a Virginia native. I've taught for Fairfax County for 10 years. This is my 11th year. I went to the University of Virginia and even went to West Springfield High School, so I'm a local. I live in Burke, Virginia with my husband and 2 daughters. I have a first grader and a second grader this year, so I am very tired by 7 p.m. Thank you all for coming this evening. I apologize for not being here this evening. If you have any questions after watching this video, please feel free to email me. I would be happy to talk either in person, on the phone, if you have additional questions or concerns specifically about your child as we move through the year. Before I talk about program specifics, I wanted to talk about my grading policy. Our 8th grade English department, our grading policy is a little different than what you may have seen in the past. The emphasis at our grade is to learn the skills. So I think traditionally you turn in a paper, you get a grade on it, there are comments, and that's that, and you move on. In this class, students are not only encouraged, they're expected to do revisions on their work to learn the skill. So if on the first go-round, even if it's a graded go-round, they have not mastered the skill, I do provide in-class revision time on most assignments where I'll do mini lessons on a particular aspect that they may need more assistance on, or I'm there if they need to ask me questions. So they get the pointers on what they need to do to improve, and then they can improve it right there in class. So when a student gets a grade in my room, they are evaluated by skill. They don't just get one grade, they get multiple grades on an assignment, smaller grades on an assignment. I grade using rubrics in class. You can find my rubrics on my Blackboard page under the rubrics tab. So they're listed by skill, and so any given assignment I may use, a few skills from the writing rubric, one from the reading rubric. Students know what skills are being evaluated on ahead of time, and what they need to do to improve if they don't receive mastery on a particular skill. I have 3 categories: mastery, partial mastery, and no evidence of mastery, which you can see the percentage breakdown both in the grading policy that I sent home. I have additional copies of that on Blackboard if you would like to see it. But ideally the goal is for students to learn skills. When you are looking at grade sheets at home, because I grade by rubric strand, by standards, and not just by an assignment, you will see multiple grades for one assignment in class. So I have an example here of a student's grade printout where if you see this assignment was given on 9/26, and there are 4 categories though for this one assignment. So students were doing nonfiction literature circles, and they had particular tasks they had to do based on a specific chapter of reading. So if you look here, general understanding is the skill, whereas chapter reading is the assignment. So developing interpretation is the skill, chapter reading is the assignment. So when you're looking at this, particularly if a student gets partial mastery in particular categories, sometimes parents will look at it and see you have 3 C's in a row, and really they're just specific skills on one assignment that students can then go back and they know what they need to do to improve based on comments and conferences that they've had with me in class. The important piece of grade sheets when you're looking at them at home is that I include comment codes. So an M for mastery, if you see this particular student has 2 MR codes, this means that they went back and revised their work. Most likely they got partial mastery on the first go round, and then they went back, did revisions, turned it in for an upgrade. So if you see MR, it's mastery revised. Oftentimes students or parents will ask what their child can do to improve their grade. And a good test of that is to look, if you're looking at their grade sheet and you see partial masteries but no R's, no R in the code, it means that they're not revising, they're not taking advantage of the time in class to revise. And I encourage them to do that. And I do give, when you have grade sheets coming home, I do give deadlines for revisions, but those typically are a week or so after grade sheets go home. So if a student hasn't done a revision, they would still have time within a window to do those upgrades outside of class if they didn't take advantage of it in class. Another thing that I do in class every day, we do 10 to 15 minutes of independent reading at the beginning of every class. In a college level course, students read on average between 200 and 600 pages every week. Now, some students are very comfortable reading that amount already, and some students aren't. And the idea, the expectation is that we get students to a point where they have a reading culture. We have a reading culture in class, and also there's an expectation that they have that reading culture at home. They get very little homework assignment, very few homework assignments in English. I can't promise that around snow days, but if it's not a lot of snow, if there's not a lot of snow, I can promise it most other times, because the expectation is that students are reading outside of class, ideally 20 minutes a day. So anything that you can do at home to create that reading culture, we will be sending reading goals home by monthly goals, quarterly goals, starting at the beginning of October. So you'll be seeing your students' goal in early October, and you can have conversations with them about how they can best reach that goal at home. In my class, I use Google Classroom for pretty much everything. So Blackboard just directs students to Google Classroom. This is a student-only access site, but I encourage students, and I encourage you as parents, to have your children share that password with you. So when you're looking online, when you go into Google Classroom, at the end of every week, I post the agenda for the following week. So if a student's going to be absent, they were absent yesterday, or they know they're going to be out, they can look at the agenda online. I also post assignments here, so any long-term assignments, papers have due dates here, they submit here, I upload virtual rubrics through this site, so students can basically have a running record of their work. And this is also where I'll post notes in class. I'm not expecting students to keep track of notes on their own. I post those here so they know where to look when they need information. So this is an example of one from a previous year. Anything they hand out in class, I'll have attachments to the announcements. So if a student was out on a Thursday and they know that I passed out a particular grammar sheet, they can look at it there. They don't necessarily have to print it out there, but at least they know what they need to ask me for in class. Also, this is a nice tool for students who were here. If they had something that was handed to them and they've lost it, they can print it out. They can print out another copy. They don't have to worry about chasing me down to find one. Here's an example of an assignment. So if any given assignment that students are working on that's going to be long-term in class, this is my view, but a student view would have the due date in red. I'll include attachments, the rubric for an assignment, any directions for an assignment I may have given are all included, as well as handouts if I've given handouts on a particular assignment. So I highly, highly encourage you to look at Google Classroom if you want to see what your child is doing in our class from week to week. Some particulars about the units that we're covering this year. We're starting out with a collaborative unit with civics. We're doing a moot court, and the skills we're going to be focusing on in English are our research skills. So looking at how to identify bias in nonfiction writing, utilizing multiple media sources to create a cohesive argument on Supreme Court cases where there have already been rulings, but the idea here is that we are retrying the cases, and so the students have to create their defense and create their argument about why their side is the right one. Moving on from that, we are going to be doing an introductory lesson to literary analysis on To Kill a Mockingbird, and I am running out of time, but to go over these more quickly, students will be working on theme, tone, symbolism, and the culminating unit is going to be a multi-genre research project. So we really are looking at not just the novel, but looking at the role of the novel in society now and really debating its relevance. Is it still relevant today? From there, we're going to be doing a unit that also combines fiction and nonfiction, but this is going to be a more creative unit where we're looking at a variety of short stories, but the kind of anchor we're looking at is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and comparing it to the 2013 film and looking at how they have very different endings. So the students then look at how does that affect tone, how does that affect mood, how does the imagery in both the short story and the film affect the tone and the mood, and then they can recreate that in their own creative pieces and also a couple nonfiction pieces. And then we follow up at the end of the year with literature circles. These 4 books are not the exhaustive list. Typically I book talk 6 to 8 stories, and they can choose and rank, discuss, and we really look at trends in literature in this unit, and that's what we'd be following up with. Some ongoing activities in class. We do poems, we do jar of death, we do grammar exercises, and also short written responses to cartoons, quotes, things of that nature. My contact information, if you have any questions, this is my email address. You're welcome to contact me. I am a very reasonable person, so if your child is stressed about something that's going on, whether it's related to my class or not, I would really like to know, because we can work something out if a student is struggling with something and that is not apparent in the classroom. I would love to hear from you and have a dialogue with your child about how to alleviate that stress. Thank you all for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.